All right, so we're live, and thank God because we have already an audience just waiting. Thanks, guys. That's good support. So we have some good stuff for you today. But first things first, we're gonna do a product placement. Mountain Dew. This is a mystery flavor that I don't know what it is. So we're gonna test this out. Sorry, Kevin. This is not announced. We've done this before. Smells like liquefied sweet tarts. So this is going to be awful. So I'll be drinking this throughout the episode. Yeah, that's pretty grim. It's like Fruit Loops and Red Bull had a really messed up baby. Anyway, yeah, that'll be happening throughout the episode. So I probably won't sleep tonight. So we have Kevin Nasser here today, formerly of Colorado, now of New York. So he is going to talk to us about flake soil first. We're going to start with flake soil. Then we're going to move on to velvet worms. So to be honest, I'm interested in flake soil. I'm way more interested in the other stuff, in the velvet worms. So they're basically, I know very little about them. I know basically what I saw in a small YouTube video from watching like 2 years ago. So let's bring Kevin in, and then we'll do some videos. So pardon us while we try to, pardon me, while I try to nail getting the video into the screen when we get started on that. Kevin, welcome.
How's it going?
Let's put you in. There you are. You're the important one. Thanks for joining us today. I'm really excited for this episode because I learned a lot. You're welcome. It looks like we've already got some folks in here that are ready to learn. So we've got Hodgepodge Pods. We've got, that's hard to say, actually. We got Chris Biggs, the Mad Aquarist. So it looks like some people are maybe looking to get some tips on flake soil.
Cool. Very good.
So they're going to be here for that. So I hope you're, hope you're spot on.
Forward.
And young
Hopefully
lad.
Clear up some things for people. I know lately there's been a lot of questions about this stuff, especially with the millipede hobby starting to get a lot bigger than it used to be.
Holy cow, is it bigger? Millipede, centipede.
Oh, absolutely.
It's been crazy lately. It's really cool to see all the different species and the different morphs and things that are coming out of that, because I think those guys are fascinating. And then we're going to be talking again about pillipedes or pill millipedes, and I know that the flake soil is like essential for them. So this will be really good. Hey to Rick from Ophi Spider-Verse, young lad. I think he came over to us from Aquarimax. Anyway, thanks audience. We love you. Hit the like button today. Why don't you? Just gonna throw that out there. So not just for me, but for Kevin. All right. So we are gonna bring in, that's the worms. Okay, let me see if I can still have this up, because we had some technical difficulties where I actually got kicked out for a minute. I'm going to actually start with this second clip. Let's see if that goes automatically.
Right, so what I've gone ahead and done now is add all my wood pellets into my tub.
So we've got your wood pellets. I don't see
that spread out.
These are the smoker pellets that you were talking about, right?
Yes, sir. These are the same pellets that you use for your grill. Throw it in the smoker, get your meat all ready. As long as it doesn't say fuel wood on it, you're pretty much good to go. Once it has fuel wood, it usually has some other additives in it that'll form hydrocarbons, and that you don't want. It's pretty much the same stuff you get when there's an arson fire in a home. It's bad for you to breathe. It leaves these nasty chemicals around, and it'll be bad for your bugs. So as long as it says that it's for smoking or for cooking, you're good to go. Doesn't matter if it's oak, hickory, cherry, apple, pecan. They'll all work. The only real difference is that some will take longer. So, for instance, mesquite is a real popular wood that you'll find when it comes to smoking. It's a good wood. It's a real hard wood. The problem, mesquite is very hard on the Janka scale, and Janka is what they use to measure the hardness of woods. So the harder the wood, the denser it is, the more lignin structure it's going to have inside. So that'll take longer to break down. That's
okay. So you're looking at a lot of added time. The harder the wood.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, the harder the wood, the longer it's going to take. Alder is a great wood for making flake soil out of, because it's still a hardwood, but it's on the softer end, and it takes, comparatively speaking, next to no time. When you think about oak or hickory, which really takes about 6 to 8 months to get good and broken down, Alder you can
Wow.
usually get away with about 4 months.
So I just imagine you have a shed or a large space in your garage. And I'm
I
frozen
used to
again.
have a garage with a lot of room where this took place in, but now I'm in a much smaller environment. Hopefully I'll be moving to a larger scale operation within a few months. So looking forward to being able
You're
to
not.
take
It looks
care of
like
people.
there we go. Excellent. Excellent. So you're looking at like 6 to 8 months on
Yeah,
average for a bin.
yeah,
And you're setting them up
absolutely.
in the bins that you have here, that you're seeing here. Yeah.
Yeah,
These big plastic totes.
yeah, those
Cool.
blue bins, the black bins with the yellow lids. It's a
Okay.
lot of flake soil going on.
Whatever totes you have available, just the bigger the better. Yeah.
Pretty much whatever big ones are on sale at Home Depot or Walmart, that's what I grab.
I imagine it doesn't really mean that much. Let me see. So
Oh,
StreamYard has this new share function that is awesome. Way better than the last time. All right, let's see. So this gets into a little bit, I think. Hopefully this doesn't shut me down.
I'm gonna be referring to this stuff in kilos.
Sorry, guys. I want to just
weight.
hear Kevin, so we're going to talk over this. So this is the bags
so
that you
that's the wood
use.
pellets. Yeah.
And you're talking to hickory and oak. I've never seen alder wood for sale in these chips
Yeah.
because I bought these
Use it.
pellets.
It's
Just for
super
substrate.
rare. I've seen it, I think, available one time, and it wasn't for actually smoking wood. It was actually for fuel, so couldn't use that. But
Okay.
as I was telling you before we started this, I'm a woodworker by trade. So what I would do personally, I would take the vacuum system off my table saw when I would work with alder, and I would just collect all that sawdust at the end of the day, bring that home, and ferment that up. But
Wow. Yeah, I think
don't
as we
really do.
talked, because I have a lot of, from building my last wood project, I have a lot of hardwood sawdust left.
Oh yeah, as long as it's kiln dried wood, doesn't have any paint or anything on it. Perfect stuff to
It's
use
just the
right
raw
there.
wood. Yeah, yeah. Because I
Do
wanted
you
to
know what
use it
type
to
of
build
wood?
it's really hardwood. It's black walnut. And the other two I don't remember. I want to say maple, and the next one is I don't remember the third one that was
Well,
there, but
glad
most of
you
it's
asked
black walnut.
because walnut is one of the species I'm hesitant to recommend people to use just because naturally it has pesticides and other toxic alkaloids in it.
Oh,
And walnut's one of the few trees that releases its own toxin through its root systems to kill other plants around it because it wants as much nutrients and sunlight as it can. It's part of its defense in nature. So wouldn't use the black walnut, but maple, that's a perfect wood to use. And in fact, the leaves of the maple seem to be preferred by the millipedes. They'll be munched
yeah.
on way quicker than the oak will be. And it's just because they'll break down that little bit faster, even though they're a pretty hard wood themselves, all the different types of maples.
That makes a lot of sense. Chris, we're not going to start over, so I know you can go back after we're done. You can go. You're welcome to go back. So this is wheat bran. What is the purpose of the wheat bran for the mix?
So wheat bran will add a bit of protein source to this. Some
Okay.
other keepers, when they make their flake soil, they'll use flour, and flour actually contains more protein in it than the wheat bran does. But
Okay.
because of that, it's more prone to rotting instead of fermenting. And for me personally, I didn't have that good results when I used the flour mixture. The wheat bran, it's that right ratio of protein to carbohydrates in there to where the mycelium will start to take over and break down like it should from the mycorrhizae, but it won't overwhelm it and take over too much to where it'll pull out too much nutrients and break it down, and it won't underwhelm it to the point where it'll rot instead of ferment. Everything stays nice and consistent with this.
Nice. Yeah, Chris says the black walnut is the thug of trees. Yeah, it sounds like a real asshole of a tree. So
It's gorgeous wood to work with, just not in this context right here.
so far my ants live in it and they love it. So I haven't had a problem with my carpenter ants living in it. But whatever. They're
Is
I
it
mean, I don't
totally
know.
broke? Is it broken down to the point where you can rip off chunks, kind of spongy?
Nah, it's just I just carved. I didn't want to talk about my ants, but I just carved tunnels and stuff in there. But they live in there and they're not having any issues. They moved right in. So they weren't
That's interesting.
hesitant about. Well, they were hesitant, but that's because ants do what ants want. So
Absolutely.
once I added
That'd
a
be
yeast
something I'd
source,
be
they didn't
curious
mind
to
it.
follow up on at a later time, see how things are doing with that.
We'll talk about it. They've been in there about 6 months.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see some more of the video. So the wheat adds protein,
Mhm.
which is another. So you're just packing this stuff full of nutrients for whatever's going to live
Yeah,
in
by
you.
the time we're done with this, it'll be fully nutrient rich, perfect stuff for your millipedes, beetle larvae, whatever you're going to feed this to be content
Awesome.
with. And my guide that I make for when I do the write-ups and publish that in the millipede groups, I talk about the little thing that I do differently. After this has been fermenting for about 3 months, I'll start to add in leaf litter and wood chunks. So there's different stages of different decaying types of wood material in there for the millipedes to also consume. And then
That's really
towards
cool.
the end, about 5 months in, I'll sprinkle in a little bit of calcium carbonate just to give that bit extra needed to it. But otherwise, everything else is just from the broken down wood material itself.
That's pretty amazing. So now this bin here, what is this just the dried wood pellet? Like once
That's
it's fully broken down?
4.5 kilos of wheat bran right there. So since I
That's wheat
used
bran.
40
Okay.
pounds of the wood pellets, that comes out to a little over 18 kilograms of dry material for the wood dust. We do a 4-to-1 ratio. So to make it nice and simple, if we're going to use 8 kilograms of wheat bran, then or 8 kilograms of the wood pellets, then you'll want to use 2 kilograms of the wheat bran. Since I used 18, I used 4.5 kilograms of the wheat bran. And then to this, we'll end up adding about 40 liters of water altogether.
Wow.
When we get to those videos, I'll explain that.
Okay. All right. Spoilers.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. People want that information quick, so they're going to dog out on us in about 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Get it fast.
That's why
But
we
yeah,
do an hour
so
and a half to get rid of all the people, the amateurs,
that's how it is. You got to weed out everybody that's not willing to dedicate it.
Absolutely. All right, so you have some active yeasts.
Okay, yeah. So we want our sawdust or wood pellets. We want our wheat bran. We're gonna need some active yeast, but not that much. In fact, for all that I'm gonna make here, I don't even use a full packet of yeast. We really don't need all too much of it. More or less, we're looking for 3/4 of a package, maybe a little less for the amount that I'm doing. Let's say you're working with 10 kilograms of material, then you're only going to need about 1/3 of a package of active yeast, maybe a little
Okay.
less than that.
So a
The
little of
big
this goes a
thing,
really long way.
yeah, the big thing with the yeast is that it releases a lot of CO2, and we don't
Okay.
want this to become anaerobic at all because then it'll rot. Excess CO2 will cause anaerobia, and no. So we need just a little bit for the mycelium to want to really munch away at and help break down that cellulose once it starts colonizing. But you don't want too much to where we cause problems later on.
So now this yeast, now this is like I'm totally dim about this stuff, but I know yeast needs like sugars or whatever, so it's going to pull the carbs out of the wheat bran.
Yes, it's going to be from that, and it'll also work in conjunction with the mycorrhizae to break down that cellulose and be able to get everything it needs from there.
Okay, so it'll grow from the
The
mycelium,
mycorrhizae, which is
the
the inoculant
mycorrhiza.
that we'll be adding later on.
Okay,
And I
so
know
this is like a
technically
straight recipe.
I'm sorry?
This is like a straight recipe. This is crazy.
Yeah, it took me a while to get everything tweaked and working to where I liked it. I have a certain species of millipede that I use. I judge everything on the growth rate, color, how
Okay.
overall the health of them they appear, how active. So this is what I found to work really well with them and some others, and just been working on refining this recipe since.
Can we? Oh, here it is. Mycorrhiza.
Yeah.
Soluble. That's got to be the important part, right?
There's different types of mycorrhizas. Some of them I found that have said soluble. You add it in water and you still have chunks and pellets floating around to it. Other ones don't dissolve at all. You just mix it in really well. This, you dump it in and it forms like this. It looks like a black ink is released into the water. So it's totally water soluble. So that makes it a lot easier to actually spread about. I'm sorry. To spread about and work with in the tub instead of having to really knead it You just dump it in, give it a good pour, and then do your mixing as normal. But mycorrhiza, although technically that's what's referred to, mycorrhiza itself is the symbiotic relation between fungi and plants, specifically the symbiotic relation between plant roots and the fungi that help them absorb nutrients.
Okay.
Nobody actually uses it. Well, nobody that I know of has used it that way. Manufacturers themselves don't really use it in the proper text, as you see here, where it says soluble mycorrhiza.
Yeah.
It should technically say soluble inoculum, but the manufacturers, for some reason, here don't use those terms. I've only seen it used in the European markets.
Okay.
I'm not sure why that is.
I really almost want to connect you. Have you met Morris Williamson from?
No.
I want to connect you with him. He should log in at some point. He's from, I can never remember the name of his business, Permian Exotics out of Texas, and he's kind of our resident soil expert. So he mixes different versions. Sorry, my internet's super spotty tonight. If I bomb out, just keep talking. I'll be back.
Sure thing.
So I keep seeing it freeze on me. So he's mixed mostly for isopods. I think millipedes too. He's mixed some soil blends that he has, like specific ones for specific things. Plants. He's a big grower of plants, but he uses the mycorrhiza too.
Oh yeah. Anyone that's really into plants will know what mycorrhiza is for the most part.
Okay. And this does not look cheap. What is this, like a 1 pound bag?
That 1 pound bag is about $38 right there.
Yeah, I can see the price tag on it still.
Yeah, it's all that list right there, the different types of mycorrhiza that is in there.
Holy cow.
For this, it had some of the most that I saw at the nursery that was by my house, so that's what I went with. I had good results with some other types, but this one really seemed to colonize it quickly. And right there, I'm just showing off the amount of water that I was used. Those are both 19-liter tubs.
Okay.
One thing you'll note, the tub on the right isn't full as much. I take some of that water and I pour it in a pot just to get it heated up a bit, and I'll pour that over the sawdust pellets. This way it'll let it steam expand, and it turns it into that fine dust so much quicker than using just the cold water and waiting for that to go on its own.
That's a great pro tip. I had to do mine overnight when I did it for my my hillbilly soil blend for my isopods. That's over a year ago, and it's still probably breaking down to a point where it's actually usable. So this is obviously your wood chip in, right? This is obviously the wood chips, or is this the full mixing?
So that right there, I'm just showing off. That's the empty tub that I'm using from my old run. You could still see it has some of the old flake soil remnants on it. And you don't really want to take that out. You want to leave that in because that's already colonized full of the mycorrhiza and some beneficial bacteria throughout the months that it's been sitting there. So that's just good stuff that'll go right back in and help speed the process up a little bit. And in this game, any little bit of advantage to help that speed up is really worth it.
We're going to go to this fourth one here.
Now that the woods had some time to...
Is this the right one?
Yeah, that's the wood pellets after I've added the water, the hot water, let it sit there and the steam expand it all. I mean, for the most part, it's almost totally expanded other than that little bit. And as we're mixing everything up, it'll just break that apart in no time.
Well, I mean, it's got 8 months to break down, so you're probably all set.
Oh, yeah. So right here, after you have all your sawdust pellets, that's when you'll want to add the wheat bran while it's still all dry and get it as mixed as thoroughly as you can. I usually start off with the spoon to get the corners. And then I got a paint mixer that I picked up I think for like $5 at one of the hardware stores. Definitely worth the investment on that end. Speeds it up tremendously.
I imagine. Now it doesn't fly all over the place. Like I imagine I just have stuff everywhere because I'm awful at that
you
kind of thing.
You got to go real slow with the drill when you're first breaking through the surface layer, but afterwards I go full speed and it's pretty good. You don't get too much fly out as long as you're real careful how far up you're at. And then when I get close to the top layer needed mixing, that's when I'll go back at it with the spoon. Get all that mixed in thoroughly.
That little spoon that we see on the left? I always
Yeah,
point at my screen like an idiot. Like you guys can see where I'm at.
yeah, that spoon right there. Unfortunately, I don't have anything bigger as of yet, but
I want to
pretty
send you a
soon
spoon.
I'll be upgrading this whole operation.
I have like 500 spoons out as a former chef. Like I have more
Wow.
utensils than anybody I know.
Yeah, I'm sure you have something that'll make this a lot easier to turn.
Yeah, definitely some like 2 foot long wood metal spoons.
Yeah,
Am I
really hook
in? I'm
in there.
in. Okay. All right, let's get this next one.
Mhm.
Let's see. I'm just trying to get through these. I'm really liking the way these were in here. Did I kick that or not? Okay. This is a really cool thing that StreamYard added. I should do a commercial for them, for crying out loud.
Might as well.
Okay. Oh, that's why I've got an ad popping up on me.
Now that you got your sawdust and your wheat bran,
Shut up, Kevin. All right.
Wow.
So
Sound
this
real
is
good there.
after you use the drill, right?
Yeah, that's the drill, and I've mixed up the wheat bran and the sawdust. You can see it's still a little bit chunky, but that'll all just get taken care of eventually. Nothing to really worry about there. So now I'll take the yeast and I'll mix that into one of the things of water. Like I said, I'm not using a whole package of yeast for the amount that I'm doing, so nobody at home should be using a whole package of yeast for the amount that they plan on doing. I mean, unless you're real gun-ho, you're going to do something like 100-pound shot. Otherwise, don't worry about it.
Okay.
Now, for the mycorrhiza, I'll just take a tablespoon's worth, maybe tablespoon and a half. Just mix that all together, too.
Oh, yeah, look at that
Like
go. That's just like tea almost already.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of like iced tea mix. You just drop it in, and it dissolves instantly.
Lipton, if you're listening, mycorrhiza. It's the next
Have to
spot for
make
you.
make little mycorrhiza tea bags to dip in your plants.
Yep. Just dip them right in. Cold water tea bags. No, they have that crappy scoopable tea mix that they have. They still sell it. It's like for grandmothers.
Scoopable
And Chris
tea mix.
Biggs, probably Chris Biggs.
Right.
Okay, so now you dump this right in.
Yep. So both of those will get dumped in now, and then just give it a
And then
really
it's just a matter
good
of waiting. All right,
Yeah.
let's see this again. I'm going to get better at this, but
No
you're
problem.
the first one that I've had this actually work with, so I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely honored to be here. Definitely happy when I got the invite.
You were so excited. I was excited for your excitement.
Yeah,
Right, so
I know I
this-
should
you're
be
kind
more
of-
enthusiastic. Just been a long day.
No, I hear you. So Kevin's been up since 4 a.m. and he still is able to be on with us. I could feel through your text. I could feel like you were like, "Oh crap, it's only 7 there." You had to wait another hour just to start this damn thing.
Oh, that kind of threw me off totally, but it's all right, guys. Glad to be here, like I said. So, as you see in the video, that little puddle there, that's where I dumped the mycorrhiza water, just waiting for it to go down. And all I do is mix it really well at this point. Now, I can't stress mixing it enough. Like, for the first month, you're going to want to mix this thoroughly every day. It takes me on average 20 minutes to a half hour to mix this for the first day for the first month every day. You want to get it as thorough as possible. Make sure everything is really well turned. Okay. After that first month, you can get away with once a week, twice a week. Personally, I do 2 or 3 times a week, but that first month, it's imperative that you constantly turn it. Otherwise, the risk of it just rotting and not fermenting is so high. And it's really devastating because you think it's starting to go well and it just takes a turn for the worse really quickly.
Well, with all the time involved, like what a waste of time then. Like you've got the time involved, you've got the substances, the ingredients that you're using. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. So a thing that you'll notice when you start this up, after about 2-3 weeks, there's a smell. My wife hates it. She used to yell at me constantly for having the garage door open when I would mix it in the winter. But it's this funky, skunky beer smell, like this nasty
Okay.
old, like if you had wine bottles sitting in a trash for too long or something, like it's this horrible, gnarly, funky smell. And it kind of clings on to you and whatever you're wearing, but eventually it goes away. And when it goes away, that's how you know that you're getting close to it being ready. So around the
So it becomes a
3-4
good
month.
smell. It becomes a good smell, but you've
Oh
got to
yeah,
get
you
through
look
it.
forward to it because as long as you have that skunky smell, you know that it's fermenting and not rotting. If at any point it starts to smell like sulfur, ammonia, a dead animal, or something like that, you know that it's gone bad, and there's not much to do to save it. I
How
mean,
do you
at
even
that
dispose
point,
of it at that point? Like, what do you do? Just
uh, personally, I would go into my backyard and I had a little area with some leaves that I would dump it out in and just let nature do its thing. I mean, I always had a lot of squirrels come up and chew up that area where I would dump it, and they'd end up burying their seeds there. And we had a lot of sunflowers grow, so it worked out pretty well. I mean, something nice came from it.
here we go. Chris Biggs, diaper genie. So it's like a diaper genie. Yeah, that. What a awful. If you have a new kid,
No, I
Tanner
do not.
Stainbrook, if you're watching this, don't buy a diaper genie. If you're gonna have a kid, don't do it. It's the biggest waste of money ever. So I mean, it keeps the smell down mostly, but as soon as you open it, you might pass out. Like it's like you're talking about the ferment. It just like
Oh
sits there
yeah,
and
that's
stews.
exactly how the tubs are. It's everything's fine and dandy. You don't smell anything. Then you open it and it's an can be overwhelming at first, especially if you're not used to doing this and it's your first run at making a batch of flake soil and you don't really anticipate that smell. So
And then
that
you,
was
how long does
quite a
that last?
surprise.
How long does that phase last?
About 3 to 4 months.
The stank phase lasts 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's about 3 to 4 months. After the second month, it's not as powerful. It's more of like this
Okay,
little bit of a lingering smell.
maybe
But
you're just used to
yeah,
it, but
yeah, that's kind of what I think it is as well. You just become accustomed to it and you go nose blind, or at least
you
you
might.
hope you do.
I guess you probably never do if it still bothers you.
No, it's that first month, it really comes at you kind of hard, especially with the daily turning. So.
Oh,
But
I
that's
can't
also a
imagine.
thing when you go and you're about 3 months in, you're doing your weekly turns. At first, the top layer won't actually really have too much of the smell because it's all the way at the top and it has that air, so it's breaking down quicker than the stuff at the bottom. It's once you get deep down, that's when you're like, oh, okay, I think the smell subsided, and you hit that bottom layer and it's poof right back up in your face. So
Oh my
that's
god.
something to look forward to. It lets you know you're on the right track, like I said. As
Now,
long
what
as
I
it's
think you're
that
doing is
fermented.
you're encouraging people to buy this product from you, so they don't have to go through all this crap. Like I know
Oh
there were
yeah.
people taking down notes, like, "Oh, the recipe. He's just giving out his recipe," and now they're
Oh
like,
yeah.
"F that. Never mind. Burn these papers."
You know what? For the time it takes to do, most people already would rather buy it from me. But when you tell them about the smell, that seems to kind of work it even more so in my favor.
Yeah.
But
I need
willing
to
to
call
tough it
you.
out.
I need to contact you after the show and get a hold of some of your product because I'm death to millipedes. I'm a millipede killing machine, which sucks because I love them. So,
What species have you tried?
Smoky Oaks,
Hmm.
their death I think was probably my fault for sure. The ivories that are my favorite so far. Like I just like their personality. Um, like they're not afraid really of anything and they're very
Oh yeah.
personable. Um, those guys died. My bumblebees may or may not be dead. I haven't seen them while doing checks in months, but they were in with isopods. So I think the isopods, if they were alive, probably
Ooh.
ate them when they molted.
Yeah, I try to
Um,
discourage people from keeping isopods and millipedes. Just
yeah, I
too
didn't
many.
know at the time. I was super ignorant. So, uh, okay,
Yeah,
so
one of
Chris has
those
a question.
composters would make it easy. The problem that I've found with the composters that I've seen is that they're not that tough, and the weight of the stuff that I'm mixing up at a time can't. The composters can't seem to really handle it, and I've had two where the sides broke out on me, and I thought they were heavy duty plastic when I felt them in the store. They just failed. So the next thing I'm looking for is a small cement mixer. I plan on giving that a go, seeing how that works out for me.
Now I know I definitely want to hook you up with Morris to talk shop because he uses a cement mixer for his soil. Again, I don't know if he's doing flake soil. I think so, but I
Mhm.
don't know for sure.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, I'd
but I think
definitely
if
be
you guys
interested in
compared
talking with them.
notes, I think if you guys compared notes, it would be a really, really cool thing. Um,
Absolutely. I feel like the more people that can make better substrates for these animals, the hobby itself would benefit as like astronomically. Because that seems to be the biggest issue. This substrate's too dry. This one's not dry enough. This one doesn't hold moisture and hydrolocks. This one has no nutrients. I mean, there's just so many issues right now that need to be addressed, and it doesn't really seem like too many people want to actually address that issue. So I feel like
well, which is
somebody needs to
weird.
step up.
That's really strange to me because that's a strange part of the hobby because I think all the detrivores, all of these little microfauna, so need that layer. They need that. That's their life.
Absolutely.
So like, why wouldn't you want it to be as good as possible? Like, I'll be fair, mine is like I said, a hillbilly blend of soil, but all of my S pods are doing great on it. Obviously, I couldn't keep millipedes on it. I thought flake soil meant I busted up rotted wood to where it
Hmm.
looked flaky. Mixed that in with some dead leaves, and I was like, these are going to be great. And I know people keep millipedes on similar
Oh yeah, some
substrate.
species do very well on substrates that simple, but the unfortunate thing is those are typically the domestics, and that's not including polydesmids, where it's mostly talking about our round millipedes, not the flat ones here. So the
Okay.
flat ones, they do better on flake, but the thing that we're starting to learn and experiment with is different soil bacterias for the polydesmids, and I won't get too much into that because that itself is a whole different topic that involves live peat moss. And live peat moss is essentially like an organism. It's bacteria filled. It also has a funky smell. It's this weird sludgy stuff, but that seems to be key to keeping polydesmids. I'm working with a few other advanced keepers, and we're trying to be able to crack that puzzle. Hopefully, we can get something going with that,
That
and
would be
hopefully, I'll
awesome.
be able to formulate a new substrate with that as well. So that's
That would be
something to
so
look
cool,
forward to.
right? Because I see these pictures of things that are either wild or they're being kept right before they die, basically in a system where they can't survive. And that's
Yeah.
what I think everybody's come together to decide that that's the thing that's bothering them. Is there something that's not in the soil that they
Hmm.
get in the wild that they're not getting in captivity?
And that's
So
something that more of the advanced keepers had realized with the pill millipedes coming in, that we could keep them for 2, 3, even 6 month periods, but eventually they'd die off.
yeah,
And a big thing everyone seemed to be overlooking, except for a small portion, is that, yeah, we're getting these animals and we think we're getting them quickly. We're not taking into consideration the amount of time they're spent in this little container while the person's out there looking for them and hunting this one, hunting for that one. They could be weeks before they're even sent to a distributor to export them out and you receive them. So, on that time, they're going to be kept in these cramped conditions. There's going to be die offs. So, that means increased.
I don't know which of us you can still hear, guys. Hopefully it's Kevin.
Cool. There we
I don't
go.
know if they lost you or me. Did I freeze on you?
Yeah, it kind of blacked
Okay.
out for a moment.
It's probably you were fine then. If I bounce out, my internet sucks tonight, so you'll still be here. That's the good thing about StreamYard. So you can keep going on about your
Cool.
stuff. We
Okay.
had a couple of things. So Moon over Miami, probably my first subscriber. Have you seen the keeper cards on bugs and inverts? I
No,
haven't
I'm
seen
not sure
them.
what that is.
Maybe post a link, Moon. And then Alan, I don't know Alan. So this is a new viewer. Do you welcome
Oh,
Alan?
Alan.
Do you use flake soil for all the millipede species you keep?
every species of millipede I use, I keep on flake soil. So from Narcissus americanus, your Narcissus gordanus, Narcissus gordanus would be your smoky oaks millipede. Chicobolus spinaceris would be your ivory millipedes. I also have Narcissus americanus, like I said. Those are my domestics. I keep them on flake soil as well. And I know some people who just keep them on topsoil. Other people say that they keep them with mixtures of coconut coir and have had success. I'm thoroughly against coconut coir just because I've seen the impact on certain keepers' specimens and what it has done. So I advise people to not use it. But then again, there are other keepers who have had success with certain species. So my view on it is if it doesn't work for one, I'm not going to risk it for anyone else. So, but yeah. All my species, my flat species like Dismoxies, I keep on flake soil. But even with ones like that, I don't see them eating so much the flake. I do notice them. I collect chunks of rotting birch wood that has mycelium on it. And I notice them really go for that mycelium on the birch and the fresh lichen when I throw that in there. So I think that might be something that could be key to keeping that species long term, but I haven't worked with them long enough to really have any definitive answers on that. I can say for Cladocricus, Archaeopstreptus, Trigonlius, Spirostreptus. Who else do I have? I have a lot of other ones back there too, but yeah, all the species I keep are all on flake soil, and it's all my own blends that I've come up with myself.
Quick aside, what's in the I'm going to point at my screen again. What's in the Exoterra above your left shoulder?
My left shoulder? You're talking about over there? That's a ball python.
Okay. He's pretty active tonight.
Oh, yeah. Should be lights out.
I keep seeing him coming up like, hey, man.
Yeah, he's cruising. He got fed yesterday, and it was a little small meal, so I'll probably give him another thing tonight before he goes to bed. Yeah, he's cruising about.
Here we got a good question from Biggs.
No, I haven't worked with any of those yet, but I have some Petaserpes, which are similar family. I know they're not technically the same looking or anything, but I have those guys right now on some flake, and I thought the culture had died out, and because I accidentally let two dry, and surprisingly I found a good handful of them still going in there. So seems like the flake soil might be contributing to them, but that's another one I haven't had long enough to really have any definitive answers.
That's a great surprise. I think that's always a good surprise when all of a sudden you're like, oh, I have more of these. Sorry, that Mountain Dew is not doing me any favors. I want to do more of these product testing spots for snacks. What was my next question for flake soil? So it's got the time management. It's got the investment in your senses, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how much do you keep going at once? Like, do you make a bin? Let's say that video, you make a bin today. Like, how much was in that batch? Like you said, like
that's a little over.
Pounds?
No, not. I wish it was 80. That's closer to about, with the weight of the water added, about 60 pounds, a little more or less, give or take. But dry material, we're at 40 and then 2. So we're at about 55 pounds of dry material in there, a little more.
Oh, so it's really not much water.
No, I mean, overall, I'm sorry. It's a little too tired for me to do the math. Yeah, we're probably pushing about 70 pounds altogether with the water weight in there. But for that, once it's ready, if I was just to use that in my own collection, it'd pretty much all be gone. And I had a tub like that last time available for sale, and that was gone in less than a month. So
unreal.
I'm trying to up my production a lot so I can help supply the hobby a bit as well as keep my own collection alive.
Yeah, well, it sounds like your collection is pretty extensive. But so I guess what I was getting at before I failed at math, because kilograms, kilograms, that's like times 500 for pounds, right?
No, it's times 2.2 for pounds.
Right. I knew it was something around 2, but my brain is like, oh, we're
yeah.
metric. No,
End
we're
of the
not
day,
metric.
call it 2 pounds even. Just make it so much simpler that way.
It's easy. So you have a bin going. You start a bin today.
Mhm.
When's the next one you start? Because obviously it takes 8 months. You can't wait 8 months all the time for
I'll
even
get
your
some
own
more
collection.
tubs, start up another 2 or 3 this week if I could find the wood pellets. That was my issue why I did so little this time, actually, because I couldn't find more wood pellets.
Okay.
But
And now I know
normally I
it's out of
like to get
season or whatever.
normally I like to get 100 pounds or more at a time going, but couldn't do it today. And right now, I'm not using anything that I could work with that wood at not using any wood that I can work with from work. So can't collect sawdust right now off those to bring home either.
That's such a happy circumstance that you have there, that you get to like just collect trash from your job and turn it into
Worked
something.
out great because I was a woodworker and then started getting into the whole millipede keeping and found out about flake soil. I was like, oh, here's a way to recycle some trash. Works
Right.
really well.
And that's great. I feel like there's a lot of businesses that do that. Yeah. Did you see this? I was going to get a can of silly string. I couldn't get out of the house today. Sick kid. I was going to get a can of silly string and then from the side, but it didn't work out.
Just have it spray out.
Special effects. Oh, it got me.
Really up in the production value with that.
Oh, right. Special effect. Speaking of production value, I bought a new like bamboo roll down 5-foot wide background that was going to look so much better than my shower curtain that I've been using. So I took all the nails out for the shower curtain, probably an hour before the show, 2 hours, realized that the roll down thing isn't going to fit in any dimension whatsoever. I tried it in a million different ways and there's just no way unless I move my studio somewhere else. So I'm thinking of moving my stuff somewhere else to get that happen. But so apologize for the hobby wall behind me. What was Chris's other thing? Permanent. So your garage permanently smells like a bad diaper genie.
Yeah, it's not the freshest of smell, but
so you had to get like you just
couple
moved
months. I should move everything to a different shed that's not within my home, so should take care of that smell issue.
Oh, so you're working on a shed out back, basically.
Yeah, I'm working on a different location where I can actually move to more of a professional production scale type situation.
Oh, that would be awesome.
So,
I feel like I wind up talking to people right before they're making that move to like a full-time business where they have their own property that they're using. It's like a side thing somewhere, outbuilding, and it's a great thing to see.
Oh, I have 10 acres right now of woods that's pretty much my own or 10 acres of property that's kind of my own private wooded area for me to pick and get a bunch of different things to work with. So really happy.
What a great situation. I'm so jealous of you hobbyists. Chris Biggs has a huge property too. Has basically got a farm, or not basically, he has a farm. So
eventually I'll have one of those.
Yeah, right? Yeah, get on it. What are you doing?
Working on it. Need some goats in my life.
You need more woodworking. Did anybody have any more questions about flake soil before we get into goats and what part of the goat you would put in your flake soil? How long would you take to get rid of it? Oh my God. Biggs, you have the best questions. He's asking for me. I have anger issues.
I don't know. My gig is take down protein pretty quickly.
Of course they do. If anybody has any more questions about flake soil, we can get to those. I like the idea that you're going to be starting your own jam soon. Not starting, but expanding your business.
Actually, so here's some from the batch that I started today. That fresh, bright colored. Oops, that fresh, bright colored stuff, as opposed to when it's actually ready. It's dark. It looks like dirt. It smells like dirt. So
it's got that nice earth smell to it once it's done.
Yeah, once it's done and ready to go, it legit just smells like dirt. Doesn't really smell anything else.
34 weeks. Is that how long it's supposed to take, roughly? That's about the length of a pregnancy.
Yeah, sounds about right. Depends on type of wood used and temperature is another thing. So while this is fermenting, it'll generate its own heat. which totally normal. The problem is some people tend to add extra heat sources because they live in a colder environment or they think their garage or wherever they're keeping it is too cold. And some places you do need that extra heat, but in other situations it can cause damage because it'll get too hot and it can stagnate this, and that'll also cause rot. So keeping your
Okay.
temperatures from, say you don't really want this getting over 100 degrees internally, and
Okay.
it doesn't sound like it can really get to that point, but it's pretty easy for it to hit over 100 in there, especially if you're outside and you have the tub outside in the summer, you live in a warmer climate, or you throw a heater on it for whatever reason. So you don't want to get it too hot. And if it gets too cold, then when it warms up again, it'll just continue from where it was at.
Okay. So it's not that big a deal for it to get pretty
No,
cold.
the heat is more detrimental than the cool.
Okay. So like Chris was saying, like Canada, where he lives, he could propagate this soil without much of a problem.
Oh yeah, wouldn't be too
Awesome.
hard to do it up there.
And over the winter, it just does its own heat. That's fantastic. 100
Yeah, when I
degrees.
was in Fort Collins, Colorado, and during the winter, it would be. I accidentally left the tub outside when I was mixing it, and I think it was around 20 out, and I left it for the week before I realized that I was outside when I went to go mix it again, and it was frozen, almost solid. Brought it in, let it thaw out for. Took a while. Took a couple weeks, I think, to thaw, and just picked it up where it started. Took a little longer to ferment, but it finished off just fine.
That's fantastic. I thought you were going to say you went out there and it's just steaming.
Oh, that would have been amazing, but no, it was a little too cold for that.
I feel like at 100 degrees or warmer, you're probably like after a hard day at the wood shop, just come lay on the bins, get those muscles relaxed. It's like a little stinky sauna.
Yeah, just have that come out in the garage, fill it up, and relax in that.
Just a fart sauna. Sounds like it could be a business, secondary business.
It's a new tranquility spa.
All right, well, let's get to, now that we're talking about bearing bodies and substrate, let me see if we can get these guys in here.
Let's pull that up.
I'm going to bring them back in. All right, this is the velvet worms, guys. This is, what is that big ass swimming pool? What is that?
Oh, that's
Tortoise?
actually for that's where my tortoise sleeps at night. Otherwise, she's pretty much roaming the house. It's a little
Nice.
tortoise right there. And then let's put this up here in the light.
Kevin just went through a move from Colorado to New York with all that stuff. Hey, Faulty, how you doing?
So there we go.
She's
That
a
one I
fat one.
believe is a female because the girth and the length of it, these are both the same age. But one thing to note on this one, let me see if I could point out these little dots right there. Those are actual scars because these guys are super escape artists. And I had them in an enclosure with a screen on top, and I had plastic on top of the screen. And this one found a little gap where part of the corner of the screen had busted off, and it wiggled through and got poked up a bunch of times by that screen. So those are all healed scars. It's happened about 3 or 4 months ago, I believe. So, but it's healed up fine, recovered since, and obviously still alive and doing well. But,
so they're fairly sturdy.
Yes and no. They can recover quickly, it seems like, but speaking with a few other keepers, apparently springtails can overwhelm them. And talking with 2 keepers now, they suspect that their springtails are responsible for killing their onychophora because these guys have a really delicate skin and they molt, believe it or not. So like anything, after they molt, they're extra sensitive and delicate. And they said that they found, well, one of them found it after, or they assume it was after it molted, but it was just covered in the springtails and ended up dying by the time it cleared off. And another person said that theirs totally engulfed in the springtails again, and they brushed them off, and fortunately his survived for a bit after. I'm not sure if he still has it or not, but that was something that I found interesting as well. Because I keep mine with lots of springtails. I don't have anything negative going on.
That
Well, this one's
stretch.
active. Let's see if I could get a defensive spray.
So you just poke at it a little bit. All right, there's a retraction. Oh,
Just see.
so you just kind of keep
No.
jacking with it, and then
Yeah, I don't want to stress her too much.
I don't
Not
think we'd
to,
even be able to see it. Like,
yeah,
did they
it's
rear up kind of like a cobra?
no, it's just blink of an eye, pow. That's it. It's just this super quick burst. But
See a faulty.
bring this
Okay,
over.
and this is their enclosure, guys. I had no
Yeah.
idea.
This is what I actually keep them in normally.
And you showed me pictures. You just had babies.
Yeah, I actually just found some babies over the weekend, so I was really excited about that.
Hey, Ben.
Let's see if I could bring this. Oh, sorry about that. Let's set you up here.
Okay. That actually looks exactly like the setup that I'm putting my snails in tonight.
This right here?
Yeah, I have a small acrylic. It's like maybe 1.5 gallons.
I think that's what this is. This was it was a Zoomed Bulgarium, I believe.
Okay.
It was given to me by a friend. But all right, there you go. You could see the front. Lots of live moss. I don't know what this plant is, but it was free. I put a cutting in there and it took off.
Biggs, what is that plant? Biggs will tell us.
Root about. Springtails, live moss everywhere in there.
Frank the Tank wants to know how your breeding has been going.
So far I found 2 babies in total. I haven't really tried bothering it too much to look for more. I kind of just leave these guys be. I throw food in once a week.
Okay.
And other than that, I really don't touch them or bother them other than right now. This is probably the first time I've pulled them out since I've gotten them, to be honest. Other than that, occasionally, once a month, I'll move some moss to check on them, and that's how I found the baby.
Okay. Well, I feel extra honored. You checked with your population for us.
That was a really pleasant surprise when I opened up that to check on them, make sure everything would be good for this, and found some babies. So that was really exciting.
The plant is Skindapsis? Syndapsis?
Okay.
I don't really know much about this. So now you were telling me before we came on that when you showed me that vivarium first, oh man, you dumped the dirt all over your laptop.
Yeah, some of the flake soil fell.
Well, just give it a good, you'll be all right.
It'll dust off.
I get so much crap on my keyboard from doing stuff around here too. Moving bins and doing soil changes, checking babies that I have. Sorry, you were saying beforehand in this little vivarium, like they thrive in a bioactive, like planted environment.
Yeah. So also talking with some other keepers. Well, one of my friends who actually, without giving away too much information, because I can't really disclose what he does, but he works for a college and he's doing some projects there with the entomology department.
Okay.
And he receives these onychophorae for the department. And he's the one that observed the springtails eating one of his. And actually, he observed them eating 2 of his, I believe. And one of his adult females died within 2 weeks of him receiving her. And he kept her on damp paper towel and sphagnum moss for a quarantine setup. And it ended up dying. And then he had another 2 that he kept on paper towel and sphagnum moss. They also died. And then another 1 or 2 that he put in a bioactive that wasn't fully cycled, just set up. And springtails ended up eating those one, or he watched the springtails eat one, found the other one dead, and springtails were on that one. So he's assuming that was attributed by the springtails as well.
That's crazy. That's a shame.
from other keepers who also had them on paper towel. Theirs ended up getting similar fates. Just they don't seem to really last long in those situations. Some things I have noticed, they thrive with high humidity, but they avoid the dampness. When I freshly spray, when I freshly spray the enclosure, they'll hide and run from the water droplets as they're cruising about. If they touch a water droplet, they retract very quickly. But they'll also wedge themselves in the crevice of wood in the back where I can visibly see there's water in the drainage layer below them.
Okay.
So they really like the humidity, but they don't like being wet. And you have to ride that fine cusp. Because their skin is still pretty soft too, it seems like they might be more susceptible to bacterial or fungal infections. Talking with one other keeper who had them previously, they noticed that theirs died within a day of them noticing mold in their enclosure. I don't know
Wow.
if that had something to do with the mold was finally bad enough for it to form spores that they noticed, so however long, or it was just that they're super sensitive to those issues that I wish I had answers for, but can't really discern anything.
I wonder if your entomologist friend would, or they're developing answers maybe.
Well,
I know they haven't been kept very long.
No, and he's trying to focus with their neurological system right now, and
Okay.
hopefully he'll have some promising results for us, but not until we can get a population going. So most of what I produce will probably be going to them, to working with that college, trying to get some stuff done on that.
Frank had a question here that actually I had too, because this is from my limited knowledge. Now, cold temps that I've seen, that people keep them at like 40 degrees.
That's a very good question. So those were species that came from New Zealand, and people would modify wine coolers, wine refrigerators, those little things to keep them in. And these are actually from Barbados. So this is Epiparapattis barbadensis. Barbados Islands are a tropical environment. I keep mine around 77 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Nighttime, I'll allow it to drop no lower than about 68 degrees, but they seem to really like that warmer temperature. When I kept them between 70, 75, I didn't see them as active. It didn't seem that they were eating as much. I would drop in a cricket per each velvet worm once a week. And when I kept them in the lower to mid 70s, I'd still see the crickets in there at the end of the week. When I'd increase the temperatures, I see nothing. With like a day or two after I throw the food in there, there's nothing left. There's no evidence of the crickets other than maybe a wing or a leg that was left behind. So they seem to really enjoy the heat. And also, I keep a piece of acrylic. To keep this piece of acrylic with just these 16th-inch holes drilled into the front of it. And that sits on top of the glass, and then I just put my screen back on top to make sure that doesn't move from the top or get knocked off by anything. So
that's your whole aeration.
Almost 100% humidity in that. I mean, those little holes allow some air exchange, but there's always condensation on the sides of this enclosure. I never don't have condensation on the sides.
So if you wind up or notice there's not, you immediately rectify it.
I give it a good misting. Yep, I give it a real heavy misting if I see that it's looking a little light.
Now, I had a trick. You might actually be able to use this if they don't like the water that's actually on them, that I used for an ant setup that I had, because they don't like the water either, like rain. They try to avoid it. So I took a tube, like literally it was tubing that you would run in an aquarium, like a half-inch wide. And I would put the water straight down that tube. It would run into the drainage layer, and I could fill as much as I needed without affecting them. And then I just put a piece of cotton, like a cotton ball, into the tube so they didn't crawl down that tube and get stuck or drown or whatever. And that kept the water crap from getting all over, the residue from getting all over. I assume you use RO water probably for these guys. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you're not going to get
all my animals get RO water. I just don't trust city water.
I totally understand. Even though New York has the best water, that might be just the city.
I'm a little far from the city nowadays.
10 acres? Yeah, I believe so. Ching came up. Hey, Ching, how you doing? That is my ultimate bromance, Ching.
It's
Hong
always
Pak
good.
D. So that might be something you could use. That I look at. I might be able to bring something to you. So maybe
Oh
try
yeah,
that out. Tell me
that's
what you
definitely
think.
a good idea. Could add that to the
Um,
back end.
yeah, that way you just kind of put it. I would take the hose from my sprayer,
Mhm.
set it onto like jet, and put it right in that tube.
Oh yeah,
Basically, they fit fairly snugly that way. And then it would just I'd let it fill to where I could see the drainage layer was full, basically, and then shut it off.
yeah, that's a real good idea. I mean, I keep about 1.5 to 2 inches of coarse grade vermaculite as a drainage layer, so that water trick actually sounds like it would be a really good idea.
Oh man, if you use it and it works for you, I'm gonna feel so smart. I don't know how to say all that stuff in Latin, but I wish I did because you've been throwing some Latin around like a mad mother.
I'm a little
Um,
tired. I'm getting all tongue tied just trying to remember the names right now.
I mean, I can't tell. I can't tell at all. Like I can tell because it looks like you want to yawn really bad.
Trying to fight that.
Your eyes are like, dude, you're waiting for you to do my daughter's move. I'm not tired.
Nah, I'm good to go.
I appreciate it. How much monster did that take?
Oh man, I take hydroxycut because it's way stronger than Monster. I recommend that to anyone who's looking for energy and just wants to go all day.
Well, with your massive chemistry knowledge, I think I'll take your advice. Does vermiculite mold? Ching actually has a question this week.
I've never had any issues with vermiculite from mold. When I used to breed reptiles, let's see, I've bred leopard geckos, which are super simple to deal with. I've bred crested geckos on them. Bred Varanus beckeri, a black tree monitor. I bred them using vermiculite. Bred some cobra species, a few vipers, and I've never had mold issues when I would use it as an incubation media for those guys. And I don't see any mold issues in my tank. This has been running
You are
almost a
definitely coming
year.
back on this show. Cobras and vipers, holy crap! I know a
Yeah.
lot of reptile keepers use vermiculite in their where they keep their eggs in the
Yeah, that's what I use for the incubation media and that
incubation. My
stuff.
brain was like in the humidifier, and I was like, no, stupid brain, that's
Oh
not
yeah.
it.
I mean,
Um,
technically, you're building a little humidifier or a humidor, I guess you would call it.
yeah, egg humidor. That smells a lot better than what you're talking about. I like that idea a lot. Like the vermiculite. Yeah, as far as I know, I would imagine that nobody would use it if it molded, or if they had an issue with mold from vermiculite, they wouldn't use it. I would think that would be totally fine.
I do know from time to time when I'm walking through the nurseries and I see it in like on the rim of a potted plant, you do occasionally see moss or algae growing on it, but I imagine that's just from whatever's already in the environment being able to cling on to that.
Yeah,
And with that situation, everything's also in a state of fighting being desiccated and staying moist. So there's not like there's any invertebrates that actually take care of that. Where in this situation with the springtails, any mold that may or may not develop would be kept in check by them. Even with the screen on the top to separate the drainage layer, springtails can still fit through there if they wanted. And then the bottom area where it would be packed more densely, there's not going to be enough stuff to get through there to allow mold to actually breathe. Remember, like the flake soil down on the very bottom would be an anaerobic area, so you wouldn't have too much going on down there.
that's pretty smart. Now, is there a reason to use vermiculite and not something else for your drainage layer? These guys is
Cheap
just
and light.
well, it's
That's
cheap
it.
and light. Okay, I thought it was maybe because it's so small they can't get down there and get in it.
No,
But
no. I mean, I considered that when I first was going to put it in, but then also I had a bunch of vermiculite that I got on sale a
yeah,
while ago. So I was like, hey, this is so much lighter. It's lighter than the Hydron or Leca, or some people use lava rock, which is
I use
also
lava rock.
heavy. Yeah,
Well, I
this
used it in my vivarium that I built, and I'm going to use it again when I build my massive one.
another
So,
good one that I like besides the vermiculite. If you could find extra coarse perlite, looks like
okay.
giant pebbles. That works really well, and again, super light material right there.
That sounds awesome. I like the idea that a lot of them have that surface area to build, like the top layers will build that
Oh
bacteria
yeah,
that breaks
absolutely.
everything down.
Especially with the extra coarse perlite, it's just these giant super porous rocks. So there's plenty of spacing, cracks, and crevices in there for all that to colonize really well.
Right. That's why I wanted to use lava rock too, is they have all the porousness is insane in those, but it's massive compared to what you're talking about. The holes in that are huge compared to what you're talking about.
It's also come up a lot in the years. I remember back when I was first getting into the hobby, I used to see that at all the expos, and you could get like close to a 20-pound bag of that stuff for almost $20 or less. And now, whew, that's some good money right there.
I got or which one is that? That's $20 or less.
The lava rock.
Oh, now it's at like Menards. You can get it for like hella cheap. I think I got a 40-pound bag for $8 or something.
Wow, that shows how long I've been not using that stuff.
My problem, I had to rinse it for like 3 days. Like the dust on it is so insane.
Oh, for that price though, forget it. I'll be outside with a hose and a screen just running that. Oh man.
I'll let you know. I'll send you some. I'll spend $80 on shipping to send you a.
There you go.
You know,
works out perfect.
That way it'll be balanced out. Let's see, where am I? Okay. Yeah, I think it's just great. I didn't realize they were that sensitive, but I guess they have a permeable skin like the frogs, like the dart frogs that you were talking about. So, which I don't know if that was during the episode or not. So Kevin compared keeping velvet worms, at least these ones from Barbados, to keeping dart frogs for them.
Yeah,
you know, they like that planet.
Definitely best to have a fully set up tank that's already been cycled to allow the bacteria and fungal blooms and all that to go through their periods. This way, the springtails and any other microfauna you might have in there also have a period to really settle in. One thing to note, don't use isopods with these guys. Things like dwarf whites, dwarf grays, they will eat these, eat the Onychophora. If they're molting, if they're not molting, they will go after them. Doesn't matter. So you want to avoid those. Some people do feed Porcellanitis pruinosis. I haven't done that because I wouldn't feel safe just dropping one in there and possibly giving birth and all that. So I tend to just feed crickets and different types of flies.
Yeah, I mean, if dwarf whites will eat them, powder blues definitely will.
Yeah, absolutely. So just try to not do that altogether.
I can watch them just like tear apart whatever I throw in as a protein source. It's just like,
yeah, it's brutal. I posted a video a couple of years back in one of the isopod groups. I was filming my pruinosis tub, and one of them was injured and two others came over and just started ripping it apart, eating it. And like, there you go, guys.
There's no friends in the isopod bins. No friends.
It's a buggy bug world. Crustacean world.
I mean, right? Yeah. They're pretty solid in this group. My 5 followers are pretty solid. Pretty forgiving. At least they have to be to watch my show. I just think they're fascinating. I think they're such fascinating creatures. I didn't realize they were in the jungle and in New Zealand.
There's New Zealand. I believe there's 238 or 248 species of Onychophora confirmed, and something like a little over 300 if you include the undescribed species that we know of but haven't actually placed yet. Most common, I think, are the Peripatus species, but those are typically found in Africa, I believe. I'm not 100% on that. I know these ones are from Barbados. I've been doing a lot of research on these ones, trying to make sure I had everything dialed in correctly with them. Anything? Oh, yeah. Interesting thing about them, the glue that they spray is kind of like cyanoacrylic glue. So any reef keepers out there, how you use the CA glue to bind frags, coral frags onto the little blocks, so that how it reacts with water and instantly hardens and becomes white. Their glue that they spray is the same thing. Once it touches your skin, you can feel it harden if it sprays you. When I see it in the enclosure, I have to wipe off the glass because, like I said, I always have condensation. So there's like white streaks on the glass that I go and scrape off from time to time from where they've been eating. It's actually pretty cool to see, but
That's kind of neat to see that proof because it's clear, right? It's basically clear
yeah,
otherwise.
it comes out clear, and if you're looking at it, you can see it turn white as it's hardening, just like CA glue does. It's pretty fascinating, at least to me.
We have not gone over pricing, Ching. So Ching wanted to know what, like, if you ever sold them, like, what would the cost be, or have you seen them sold? I've never seen them sold, but I haven't really looked.
These were not cheap. These were legally imported from Canada from captive born and bred stock. So these are few generations captive bred, and the import and everything. They were a little pricey. Haven't really determined a cost for them. If I were to sell them, most likely I'd probably only do trades to other really experienced keepers for other rare invertebrates at the moment. I just wouldn't feel comfortable selling them, and they die, and just this is too rare of an animal in the hobby right now to really release it to the inexperienced. And I know a ton of people aren't going to be happy with that answer, but I'd rather stick with that ethical point than just try to make a buck.
Honestly, I think everyone that watches this show or might tune into it later is gonna totally agree with you on that. Like, nobody wants their well cared for animals. Like, obviously, you're putting a lot of effort into this small colony, and so far, I mean, so far they're small. Not so far you're putting effort into it. So why would you? I mean, you care about these creatures, obviously. Why would you send them to somebody who is a ding dong, or you don't know if they're a ding dong or not?
Absolutely. And the big thing that I'm against is trophy keepers, where they just want something to say they have it or they saw a viral video. That really bothers me, and unfortunately, these are absolutely a trophy pet. People see one video and I need to have it, and they don't want to listen to what I have to say. Or I've denied people millipedes because they won't listen to my advice on substrates, and these are mine that I'm kind of known for. You should take my advice at least. But
yeah, at least a little bit. It's not like, I feel like your soil, you're not trying to make a sale. You're trying to give that, like, if you're selling me millipedes, I would expect you to try to sell me your soil because you know that's exactly what they need. It's not like you're trying to make another buck. You're trying to sell what that thing needs.
Oh, absolutely. And when I don't have it available, I'm quick to offer anyone that I trust who has a quality substrate to use. I make no money off anyone that I refer. This is just, I want the best for the animal.
Yeah, perfect. That's another reason I want you to hook up with Morris, so our soil guy. Like, that's another good reason to set you guys up. He's actually working on his own inoculant, like his own blend of inoculant right now, apparently.
Interesting. Sounds similar to what I'm trying to do with the Livefeed.
Yeah, I imagine you guys probably have similar goals. Now, Biggs, I had a question for you. So you said Peter got velvet worms from the same source as Kevin? Is that Peter from Bugs in Cyberspace?
Yeah, I believe they came from the same source.
Okay. Because I know he's got all kinds of crazy stuff. Like, I really want feather millipedes, but I know if I can't keep ivories alive, like, what chance do I have?
Certain species of feathers are fairly simple. After the interview, I'll set you up with somebody who can take care of you with those.
I really want the ivories next. That's my next. I want to get a colony of them going. Like I said, I love that you can interact with them.
Mm-hmm.
I want an invertebrate that I can, like, hang out with. Not hang out with, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, I can pick them up and handle them once in a while. And it's not going to be a tragic thing. Like, every time
you want one that you can handle, hold on.
Here we go. We get bonus footage here, guys. It's after the hour and a half, so this is all bonus footage. Hobby poachers? I like that, Frank. Frank calls those people hobby poachers. I like hobby poachers. I really like trophy keepers.
So this is
what the hell is that?
That's one of my Archaeopstreptus gigas. This is the one everyone wants. These are the giant African millipedes. She's a little shy right now.
And these are the ones you're talking about. Like, they need that soil. They need something in the peat.
These ones, believe it or not, are exotic, but they're actually one of the hardier exotics. These, I know keepers who have pretty good success with keeping them on just plain old topsoil, and they'll
Okay.
take a big chunk of thoroughly rotting wood where you can press your thumb into it and it'll indent, and they'll bury that dead center along with a bunch of leaf litter. And I know 2 people who have gotten theirs to breed that way along with proper cycling. But gigas are really easy to keep. They're hard to get to breed. The females need to be cycled or else they won't lay eggs at all.
What do you mean by cycled for me, for an
Well,
ignorant person like
by
me?
cycle, I mean they need a wet and dry season. So they need that dry
Okay.
period, they need a wet season, and they need a thick leaf layer, or else they will not lay eggs.
Okay. And then you won't even know really because they're in the leaf litter. You'll just know when you see babies.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All of a sudden you have 50 of them. Pure cocoa with just oak leaves. Okay. Alan had a friend that just kept them on pure cocoa fiber, cocoa core.
And
I'm
these
guessing.
are the ones that I became known for. These are a Cladocricus species, Philippine giant blue. These were
That's
the ones
beautiful.
that really put me on the map, and that's how I knew my flake soil was good. This is one of the species I experiment all my test substrate blends on.
The blue is the one that you test your substrates on?
Yeah,
I was going to
have a
ask you, and I
lot of
totally
them.
forgot. I totally flaked on that one. Oh, see what I did there?
Yeah, that's definitely the one that I experiment the most with. They're a hardy species as long as you meet their wood requirements. They don't really go for vegetables or fruits as much as some of the others. They will, but they don't really tend to clean it out like a gigas would or like a narcissus would. But they go through some of the most leaf litter of all the species I keep. That and
Okay.
the rotting birch, they plow through that really quickly.
Now I have I collect all of my stuff from cemetery that's nearby because those guys they basically bulldoze it all into piles like their leaves and all that stuff like the extra wood. So down by the creek there's all kinds of rotting wood and they don't use any chemicals. They don't, and they have acres and acres. So I'm confident that it's all safe. So I have 2 like 55-gallon tubs or 50-gallon tubs
Oh yeah.
of rotting wood out in the garage. It's been sitting there waiting for use. So yeah, I definitely need to talk to you for some of these millipedes because I love millipedes. I think they're amazing.
Oh, absolutely. They're just fascinating to watch, everything about them. I mean, from how they reproduce to how they tunnel through, the way they get new segments when they molt. I mean, it's not to look. There's always something to learn about them.
Yeah, and they're just so cool. And now, like you said, there's so many different ones now that this flake soil is going to be so important to the hobby. There's so many different ones that are coming on the market now. I just saw Wally Kern, again, to mention his 14 days of Christmas or whatever. I forget what he's calling it. Sorry, Wally. He does these literally thousands of dollars of giveaways in 14 days that he gets from his sponsors.
Wow,
And
that's
not
awesome.
necessarily sponsors, but donations, right?
Mhm.
So one person was giving away millipedes, and I guess I don't know if you got to choose from 5 species or you got them, but all 5 of them were things I'd never seen before.
Nice.
So it was
That's
really
always
cool.
exciting. It's definitely a good feeling. You see somebody with something new, and it's like, oh man, I need to work with that one.
And it was remarkable. It wasn't just like, oh, this is a different shade of black millipede. It was like the one had black body or something, but with these 2 cream stripes that came all the way down the body.
Probably Spirobolellus.
Probably. I'm sure you know what it is. But there were 12 supreme days of Christmas. Thanks, Frank. I knew somebody would know. Okay. Yeah, watch for the recipe. Ellen? I'm sorry, I'm butchering that name. I don't have my glasses on. Alan? Whatever. You know what I'm trying to say, Mr. or Mrs. Goucher. I don't know if that's just a hippie way of spelling Alan or it's a woman's name. I can't tell.
Actually, in the drive that has those videos that I sent you earlier, there's my text document of my actual recipe that I have all typed out. If you have a website or something that you could share it on, feel free.
I was going to share it to ISO Buddies if you don't mind.
Absolutely, get that out there. I want as many people with it as possible.
That's awesome because you hear about this. People I've contacted for interviews that honestly haven't been on, We're more concerned about their trade secrets than anything else.
No, I
And
don't, I
that's
don't
not,
care. If
obviously
it
that's
works
not
for
what I'm
me, I
about.
want other people to have the same success. I don't care. Even when this becomes, or if this becomes a business, I will still give out my recipe to anyone that asks.
I don't see anybody that I know or that's on my channel or my Facebook group that's gonna go full bore and like start a business on it. You know what I mean? But if they use it for their hobby and keep their animals better, I'm sure you agree
Yeah,
with
I'm
me.
all
Like
for it.
that's what it's about. To the
Exactly.
people that, and I
We need
appreciate that.
more people having success keeping these animals, because that's what's going to keep this hobby alive. Already, there's so many bans on getting new species imported, and then the legalities involving people with permits and people without. It's just we need people here working with these already to help get these rules laxed already. Like these, we need things to become more lax for all of us here, and the only way that we can do that is to show we know what we're doing and that these aren't any potential harm to the environment. So smart ethical keeping and actually making sure we're not over harvesting, I think those will at least start to get us on the right path towards things becoming more available for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just having the community, like I love getting to expand the community a little bit more, bring more people together. And
Absolutely.
I'm not going to say I'm responsible for that, but some of it, um, has really helped out. I'm going to send you the link for an invite to my Facebook page too, my
Sure
Facebook
thing.
group, ISO Buddies. It's just ISO Buddies. Um, but yeah, I'm going to let you get to sleep because, and I really
Thank
thank
you.
you. I definitely
Appreciate
want
it.
to have you on again.
Absolutely. Just let me know. Set something up.
I don't know what just happened. My Facebook just went off. But I really, really can't express enough how excited I am that you came on with us and how excited I was that you were excited to come on. So,
Thanks a lot. Hopefully, I help clear up some questions for anybody, and anything else, feel free to ask away, and I'm sure you'll get it back to me. And if I'm in the millipede groups, ask any questions. I'll answer whatever I see. So,
what's the one that you were in? I saw when I posted you were in one of them.
I'm in from Millipede USA to Millipede and Centipede Keepers, Millipede and Centipedes Worldwide. I'm in most of the Facebook millipede groups.
Okay. All right. So if you post in a millipede group, Kevin's probably going to see it.
You could search Kevin Nasser in any of the millipede groups. You'll probably find me.
Do you have a shop, like an online shop or an online presence, or is it just?
No, but right now you could just go to my Instagram. It's Boogie Down Bugs.
Is it GY or GEY?
BOOGIE and then _down_bugs.
Close to my Instagram. The Boo Bagger.
I could see how they'd be confused.
To be fair, to be clear, I saw that name in a video game and lost my mind over it. And I did my research and found out that it is basically an ogre from like ancient London, ancient Europe.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Kind of like the Krampus, kind of like you would take kids in the woods. Yeah, you would take bad kids in the woods and beat the shit out of them and then send them back home. So,
yeah, came up with the name to honor my Bronx roots. I'm from the Boogie Down originally, so I had to go back to that.
Nice. So you're back where you belong.
Oh, absolutely.
I appreciate that. All right, well, get some sleep. Thank you so much. And if you need anything from us, let me know. And
absolutely, it's been a pleasure, guys.
Soon to have you back. All right.
Good night.
All right, man. Have a good night. All right. He's already gone. Man, that guy's so tired. I totally appreciate that he actually came on. Let's get the bugs out of here because there's no more. Yeah, I'll kick them out. There you go. Sorry, guys. I'm still learning StreamYard after all this time. So next week, we have another guest, obviously, that I'm also excited about. But in the meantime, I'm going to post that recipe on ISO Buddies' Facebook page. If you don't know where that is, it's the only one that pops up if you look. Next week, we have scheduled Josh Kane. I don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but we're going to talk about something fascinating. So hopefully, or what we think is fascinating. So Thanks, Rick. Thank you for the kind words. If you haven't clicked like already, none of our videos get any likes. So you've been here an hour and a half. What's the problem? Almost an hour and a half. Okay. Is that what that says? Basically. So click it. What's your problem? Oh, thanks, Chris. That's what that was going off. My computer lets me know weird things. So Chris sent me the recipe as well. I'm going to post it in IsoBuddies because I downloaded it from Kevin himself. So you guys, if you want to have your garage or your shed smell like diaper bottoms, you can mix your soil yourself, or you can buy it possibly from Kevin or from, thank you, Alan, from Kevin, or we're going to post links to Permian Exotics as well, since Kevin doesn't care who gets it. Permian Exotics is our friend Morris Williamson. So, and he's been doing, as far as, he was my first substrate builder. So it's good to see that there's other people that take it as seriously. That's all I have tonight, guys. I hope you had a good time. This is horrible. So I know you saw me drinking it the whole time. It's about halfway done. I don't think I'm going to make it. I think I'm going to chuck it. I have a 12-pack. If anybody wants one, come on down. Come on down to Joliet, Illinois. In the meantime, stay away from the news. It's been pretty grim this past couple of weeks. Other than that, love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Thanks to the new viewers. Have a great night. And if I don't see you before then, happy holidays.